In this module, we're going to look at inventory. We're going to try to understand what it is you currently keep track of and what it is you need to keep track of in the platform AI and data worlds. Now, there's a high probability that there is a very large gap between where you are and where we want you to go. But that gap is really blue sky for you, as this picture shows. As I look and walk around organizations, I say to every firm and board I work for, there is data strewn throughout every organization on the floor. Customer data, employee data, inventory data, you name it, sentiment data, engagement data, and it's sitting all over the place. But the problem is that organizations have not valued that data. They have only valued the fundamental data of an organization, the financial data, the manufacturing data, the productivity data of the organization. So we're going to try to cross the chasm, and this is a big chasm for most organizations as they look to inventorying what is truly valuable, as Megan has showed in today's intangible and alternative data world. So let's start again with where Megan left us off. We all know, because our CFOs, our chief financial officers, have been the keeper of money and things, it's now time for us to look abroad and say, where is other sources of data? So it's possible that we think about, okay, does the HR person have people data, benefits data, engagement data, training data, educational data, insights data about the people and suppliers with which we work that allows us to better serve them, against which we can apply machines to improve their lives? On the other side, do we have, through our chief marketing officer, network data, that is social network data, marketing data, social responsibility data, even investor reports and investor data, because they're part of our external networks? And are we collecting from sensors IoT data, because that's external to our current internal network? And if we're an educational organization, do we have data regarding our families who serve us and we serve, their children, their parents, the funders? Do we think about that broadly? And then from a technology perspective, do we have intellectual property data like brand data, software data, patent data, you name it, R&D investment data that shows the type of intellectual property that we are producing? As we think about all those alternative data sets, we have to think, who owns it? Who's responsible for it? We know in the finance department who owns that data set, but do we really know who owns the data sets that we just talked about? Is there somebody in our organization that we can go to understand what data they have, what data they could and can collect, and how can that be governed in such a way it presents and delivers value for the organization? And to do that, we need to think, okay, we need to take a data inventory, and we need to go to the natural person in our organization that has been the keeper of those relationships. Doesn't mean they've been the keeper of the data sets, but they've been the keeper of those network-based relationship. Marketers, HR department, production departments, technology departments. And we need to understand, what is the cost of not knowing? Think about it this way. There was a quality movement, right? Deming realized that the cost of not knowing the quality of data for Ford, or the quality of a car produced by Ford, when Ford became a simple mission on quality as job number one, is they realized that the cost of not knowing the quality of what they produced created a lack of customer desirability, a lack of customer loyalty. So they realized they had to know what type of car they were producing and the quality of that car they were producing, so they can maintain customers, make sure they were satisfied, and cars were not brought back into warranty. Well, the same thing goes for data. Can you imagine 10 years ago, today, you had to drive to your local educational institution, or you had to go pay a bill, or you had to go downtown, and you didn't know how to get there. And by chance, Google decided, I'm taking away GPS. You'll have to just figure out your way there, and there's no more maps anymore. You'd have to navigate a long way without knowing where you're going. Well, that's the truth for organizations too. They're navigating in a not knowing way. They've not thought, wow, what is the cost of not knowing the GPS of our strategy, the GPS of our customer directions, the GPS of our employees' wants and needs, the GPS of our investor requirements. That cost is very high. So it's necessary to do a cost-benefit analysis of not knowing versus knowing. Once you understand that, you can do the next thing under inventory. You can do something as simple a plot like this. What is available and what can I value immediately? And in the low bottom left corner, you can think, well, I've got some easy to obtain information with low impact. But what I really want to have is hard to access information with high impact. So how do I do that around intellectual property? How do I do that around customers and employees? And how do I do it around brands and friendships and fans so that I can begin to move my business from easy to access, not very valuable data to high value, high impact, hard to access data, and to make that the core of what we do. And that could be applications, software, data regarding brands, you name it. But data is the core of what it is you're going to do around every aspect of your business in this inventory part of our activities.